Microsoft Surface Pro 4. The Surface Pro 4 is iterative in the best sense of the word. The Surface Pro 4 isn't the youngest or the prettiest Surface Pro around these days, but it is still worth your consideration. When it first dropped in October 2015, it was seen as the natural progression of the Surface Pro lineage. 2 years later, it holds up relatively well, and although it's questionably priced brand new out of the box, it's tempting to snag a refurbished model. As it stands now, the 2017 Surface Pro starts at $799, £799, £1,199 for an Intel Core i3 processor, 4GB of RAM and 128GB of SSD storage space. At least in the US, for a limited time only, you can also get a Surface Pro configured with the same amount of storage and RAM, but with an Intel Core i5 CPU, for the exact same price from the Microsoft Store. For the sake of comparison, a Surface Pro 4 with the 2-year-old Intel Core i5 paired with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of SSD storage is only $20 less on Amazon, at $779 in the US. While it did charm us back in 2015 for its ability to convert from tablet to laptop on the fly, made better by the fact that it was designed for use with Windows 10 rather than the controversial Windows 8, it goes without saying that the Microsoft Surface Pro 4 has since been replaced. Nonetheless, it's a slate that we've honored with a 4.5-star rating, accompanied by a recommended seal of approval gracefully handed to the Surface Pro 4. Lauded for its bigger screen and sharper resolution, not to mention a refined keyboard and stylus, the Surface Pro 4 was Microsoft's best crack at its winning tablet formula yet. The Surface Pro 4 managed to introduce more levels of pressure sensitivity and a host of buttons to the signature, but sold separately, Surface Pen. Likewise, the type cover keyboard is heavier and more satisfying to the touch, while the screen resolution was bumped all the way to 2736 by 1824, making it 216 pixels per inch, as opposed to the 128 display of the 13-inch MacBook Air. The only problem now is that it's since been superseded by something better, namely the Microsoft Surface Pro, which we were introduced to back in May 2017. Baffling naming conventions aside, this new tablet is the closest thing to a Surface Pro 5 we're going to get for quite some time. Its inevitable replacement aside, the Surface Pro 4 remains as one of the best Windows tablets around, though admittedly there aren't many to choose from. You can only buy it refurbished, but it is significantly cheaper for arguably better specs than you would get from the new Surface Pro. With the Surface Pro 4, Microsoft was more concerned with perfecting an already successful design rather than making any bombastic innovations. That's why it basically retains a similar look and feel to that of the Surface Pro 3, albeit with a few minor refinements including a new chrome-laden Microsoft logo and a chassis more than half a millimeter thinner than the previous generation.